In this video, we're going to go over the differentiation rules of trigonometric functions. All of the formulas used in this video will be provided in the video description below. We'll start by going over the derivative of sine and cosine. Derivative of sine equals to cosine of x, and derivative of cosine equals to negative sine of x. Let's do some examples. First, we'll derive x squared plus cosine x times 1 minus sine of x. To derive this, we're going to use the product rule. We're finding the derivative of the first function, which is this function. Derivative of this would be 2x minus sine x, since the derivative of cosine is negative sine, times the second function using the product rule, plus derivative of the second function, which is 0 minus derivative of sine is cosine, times the first function, x squared plus cosine x. Now we'll go over finding derivatives for tangent and cotangent. Derivative of tangent x is secant squared x. And for cotangent, it's negative cosecant squared x. Now we'll do some examples. Now we'll derive 1 plus tangent x over 1 minus cotangent x. We're going to derive this using the quotient rule, which means we'll find the derivative of the numerator first, which will be 0 plus derivative of tangent is secant squared x. We'll multiply this by the denominator, minus derivative of the denominator, which is going to be 0 minus derivative of cotangent is negative cosecant squared x, times the numerator, 1 plus tangent x, over, using the quotient rule, the denominator squared. Last two rules would be finding derivatives for secant x and cosecant x. Derivative of secant x will be secant x times tangent x. And derivative of cosecant is negative cosecant x times cotangent x. Now we'll do some examples. In this example, we're going to derive 10 times secant x times cosecant x. Here we will use the product rule. Let's take the constant out, and we're deriving secant x. That would be secant x times tangent x, times, using the product rule, the second function, which is cosecant x, plus derivative of the second function, which would be negative cosecant x times cotangent x, times the first function, which is secant x. Now we'll do two more examples using everything we learned. Now we'll derive x squared times cotangent x over 1 minus secant x. This would equal the derivative of the numerator, which is 2x, times cotangent x, here we're using the product rule, plus derivative of cotangent x, which is negative cosecant squared x, times the first function x squared. This is the derivative of the numerator. Now we're going to multiply this by the denominator, 1 minus secant x minus derivative of the denominator. I'm going to write it here. Derivative of the denominator is going to be 0 minus derivative of secant is going to be secant x times tangent x times the numerator, x squared cotangent x. And we divide all of this divided by the denominator squared. Lastly, we'll derive cosine x times x minus cosecant x. Here we use the product rule and find the derivative of the first function, which is negative sine x. We'll multiply this by the second function plus the derivative of the second function, which is 1 minus derivative of cosecant is negative cosecant x times cotangent x. We'll multiply this by the first function, cosine x. If this was helpful, please subscribe to my channel.